Pump the brakes. Gas prices are headed back up after months of declines. According to AAA, the national average is now $3.68 per gallon. That's up 0.3 of a penny since yesterday. It may seem small, but experts warn it could be just a start. But here in Utah, we are still paying way over the price in other states of $4 a gallon, way over $4 a gallon. So why here in Utah are we paying so much higher than in other parts of the country?
That is probably the most common question into the KSL newsroom, and several Utahns decided it was time to get Gephardt to investigate.
Ken Boyle of St. George has been waiting for Utah gas prices to get in line with the rest of the country.
It'll come around and we'll catch up eventually, you know.
But come around, we have not. Here in Utah, we consistently pay more than many other states, around 60 cents more per gallon than the national average.
So what is it? Is it price gouging, or why are we so slow?
Ken, not alone in his frustration, of course. We hear from hundreds of viewers about the subject, some emailers pointing out that all the major refineries are in the Salt Lake Valley, and it doesn't seem to add up. They have a point. We took to the skies to show you, as only Chopper 5 can, there is indeed a complex oil production system in our own backyard. From up here, you can get a real sense of just how robust oil production is in our state, from the oil being drilled in Vernal to the oil being refined here in North Salt Lake to the miles and miles of pipeline going all over the place. According to the U.S. Energy Information Administration, Utah's 5 oil refineries process a whopping 204,000 barrels of crude oil every single day. That's more than enough to cover the 121,000 barrels that Utahns use per day. In fact, these refineries produce so much that they boast they can supply gas to Idaho, Nevada, Wyoming, Washington, and Oregon. But while that might seem like a lot, actually it is not, says Tom Holst.
The other refineries in the Gulf Coast, they collectively process 5 million barrels per day of crude oil.
Yeah, the Gulf Coast produces like 25 times more than Utah, and that is the #1 reason why we pay more. Holst has worked in oil for decades all over the world and is currently with the Gardner Institute here in Utah. And he says there are other factors too. Gas taxes in Utah are relatively high. We have fewer pipelines, which means having to truck more raw materials. And yes, politics and profits can also factor in.
The refiners in North Salt Lake have made significant investments, and their refined products will seek the highest price that it can.
And boy, can they. Despite the financial hurdles that many industries are currently facing, oil companies are doing pretty well right now. According to the U.S. House Committee on Energy and Commerce, Chevron reported a profit of $11.6 billion last quarter. Shell, $11.45 billion. BP, $8.45 billion. And Exxon reported a profit of $17.9 billion. That is the highest quarterly profit reported by any oil company in history. For its part, the Utah Petroleum Association says this is the free market at work and points out that only 2.4% of those profits go to their corporate officers. Most of that money goes to shareholders, millions of Americans through retirement funds like 401ks.
Is the time to be profitable when the price at the pump is so much higher than it has been historically?
Sure. The optics aren't good. I grant that. But they take high risk, and there have been times when they've been hammered.
Holt says that in the long run, he suspects good things will emerge from these tough, expensive times. Specifically, that we will all become less reliant on oil to get around.
Electric vehicles are becoming mainstream. The EV adoption rate by Utahns is higher than the national average.
So there you go, Ken. Now you know why we pay more in Utah than the national average. Matt Gephardt, KSL 5 News.